Good afternoon and welcome. I think this is the fourth session on water scarcity, managing water scarcity. I've had the honor to moderate two of them, and it's a great pleasure to be dealing with this very important topic in the region of water scarcity, and known as one of the most water scarce region in the world, with about 86% of the population living in water scarce countries. So the efforts, the non-conventional efforts for dealing with this water scarcity are very important, and I think we'll have a view onto that, whether from the demand side management or from the resources management side, which are equally important, but sometimes the demand side is forgotten. So I won't take a lot of time. Thank you for coming back from lunch, and hope you're all energized for the last session of the day and the last session of the conference. We have a very exciting start for the conference with one distinguished speaker with us. We have with us, is it Dr.? Or you prefer Susan? Susan, all right. We have with us Susan Lear. She's a water utility expert, a very interesting person. I've had the honor to dine with you on the first day in the gala dinner, sitting on the same table. Susan is a water utility expert and author specializing in identifying realistic, I like that word, realistic and creative solutions to water-related challenges. She serves as an associate of the School of Engineering and Applied Sciences at Harvard. She was CEO of a large water utility in California. How large is that in California?
Provides water to about 2.7 million people.
So that gives you a scale. That's applied, yeah. So she also serves as a senior fellow of the Advanced Leadership Initiative at Harvard and co-authored a book, Running Out of Water, as part of her fellowship. She's chair of the Advisory Council of the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering at UC Berkeley. Today she'll be talking to us about improving water management, I believe in Morocco, through a system of rewards. A very interesting topic. Susan, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm glad you came back from lunch. I hope you didn't eat too much lunch, because I'll start to see you doing this and then I'll feel bad. So anyway, thank you for that very kind introduction. And we're here to talk about a topic. That's why we're all here. We're here for water. We know how important it is. We know how important it is for a healthy ecosystem, for human life. But it's often somewhat of a dilemma in that it is a human right. Access to water is a human right, but we also know it's an economic good. And how do we juggle all that? And it is essential for life. So one of the things that we're often dealing with, or that push and pull of water, is issues around demand and supply. There's the costs of supply. It's often, there are climate costs with the carbon that's embedded in bringing water. And it's increasingly difficult to implement. The early days or before there wasn't as much pressure on supply, we could just count on it coming from the mountains. It met all the needs of the population, of agriculture, or our industry. That's not true anymore. So we have the issues around demand. How do we deal with the demand side? We've heard, as Ed mentioned, we've heard from many people about how we can augment that supply. But let's talk a little bit about the demand side and how do you deal with that. For many of us, as someone who has run a large water utility, often, especially in the US, one of the ways they deal with it is conservation pricing, which is not a fun way to decrease your demand. Especially if you have customers who don't have money, and what are you going to do? Raise, it's an essential for life. You can't just raise the rates. And some people will say, wait a minute, even where if they do have money, they'll say, wait a minute, you're raising the rates so that you can build a new building in this town. Why are you taking it out on me? And then for people that, in fact, I've heard this often, is that I've been saving water, I've been careful, and now you're going to raise rates on me as a way to cut back my demand. So through research that was supported by Harvard University, and in particular, the Middle East Initiative of the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard, provided a research grant. And they asked a colleague of mine, they asked a couple of us, would we be willing to put in a proposal on this research grant? And could we come up with a way that we could stimulate or in some way encourage conservation in the Middle East? And so we looked at the issues around conservation pricing, didn't think that would work. So we thought, how can we change the paradigm? How can we bring about conservation without penalizing the user, without being punitive? So we were looking at we came across, one of my colleagues was working with someone who had tried a program in a small village in Northern California where they were giving people credits and the like to get them to conserve. So we thought, well, maybe we can try something like this. As in running a large water utility, I always knew that people like prizes. People like to get incentives. They react very well to incentives. So we tried to change the paradigm, and we thought maybe there's a way through a system of rewards that we could get people to conserve. So our proposal was accepted, and we went on with this research project, and we thought, okay, where are we going to make this work in the Middle East? Why did we pick Marrakesh? First of all, why did we pick Morocco? Morocco sort of picked us because one of the doctoral students from Harvard, she was located there, and she was willing to be our advanced team. And we also went to meet with the leaders of the water ministry, of the Department of Interior of Morocco to get their permission to do this project. And they basically said, you're going to do Marrakesh. Now that was somewhat of a surprise to us because we wanted to do a small, confined city, maybe of 120, 150,000 people, where it would be easier to manage it. But they wanted us to go to a larger city, a more diverse city, and also it was a city where COP22 was going to be as well. So there we went to Marrakesh. And we tried to look at this, first of all, from a water utility perspective. Because to implement any program like this, you need to be able to take it from the lens of that water utility that you're going to have to work with to come up with these water savings credits, with the system of rewards. So I took from my background of running the San Francisco water, power, and sewer utility. It's basically San Francisco and Silicon Valley provide water to, and try to take that knowledge to Redima, which is the concessionaire, which is the utility in Marrakesh. So we worked with them, and we were trying to come up with a system of encouragement. So we came up with a system of what we call water savings credits, all right? And we'll get into more detail on that. But our goal for these water savings credits to encourage conservation would be that we're not going to get any political backlash from it. They were not going to be punitive, particularly to the poor. There was going to be very little financial investment, in fact, no investment by the water utility. And it would reduce the carbon footprint of producing additional supplies of water. So the first thing we had to do is say, okay, how are you going to set that water savings price, that water credit? And again, we worked closely with the local water utility to make sure we had their buy-in, that we were not going to be a burden to them. So we asked them for historical data. In fact, let me back up a little bit. One of the reasons we also picked Marrakesh is because they have water meters. And in fact, one of the criteria for this program, and I need to say that at the outset, is that the water has to be metered, and we can at least get data, if not monthly, quarterly, on the historical use. So I want to set that at the outset. So in looking at that data, we established a threshold for those water savings credits. And we looked at the monthly average, looking at data for the past 3 years. You could probably look at less data, but it was helpful that we were able to get 3 years of data. And we worked closely with the utility, again, not to be a burden. And what we did is we set the water savings credit, the payment you would get if you saved. So if you saved at least 1 cubic meter below your historical usage, you got 5 dirham, okay? And that was still a savings to the water utility, because what it cost to produce the water, or should I say, not to the water utility, but to the water supply, which is the national water system, it was still a savings, because to produce water, the national average is around 10 dirham. So here's just showing what that means for the customer, where they go below that watermark of conserved water, they get that 5 dirham. So we believe that out of this, there was many benefits. For the customer, they saved water. For the company, or for the country that is supplying that water, they save money, and they have to produce less water. And then the customers liked it because it was nice to get a prize. This is particularly important in this region because water is already decoupled from revenue. When there's no cost recovery, low prices do not reflect scarcity. So giving back a water prize or a water savings credit has many benefits. Again, we set the value of the water credits below the subsidy, the volumetric subsidy, and so it encouraged the savings. Okay, let's get to the results. What we did is we operated this program. It took us about a year to set it up, mainly meetings with the utility,